Hello, welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay, and welcome to my coronavirus isolation chamber. If you hear some dull thudding outside, that's my wife. She's been trying to get me out of here for the last 4 days, but I will not be moved. I'm taking this seriously. I'm staying inside my cellar, surrounded by wine. The coronavirus is an enormously serious area. It's something we have to take properly and give due consideration to. There have been some people, though, who've been going a little bit overboard in their understanding of and preparation for what the coronavirus might lead us to, and then specifically laying siege to supermarkets and leaving with 7,000 rolls of toilet paper, which even in an entire year of eating the hottest possible vindaloo, you will not get through. Likewise, hand sanitizer. There are people with gallons and gallons of the stuff sitting in their garages, and those same gallons will be sitting there this time next year once coronavirus is a thing of the past, at least. That's what we all fervently hope. But in terms of preparing yourself, of stocking up, the issue of wine is one that chimes rather nicely with an area of wine and wine packaging that has suddenly become de rigueur in a fairly short space of time, and that is wine in a can. I first encountered it last year when I had some Uncanny Wine, which we'll taste in a moment, dropped off by the guys behind it. It's been going though for a while, and in America in particular, the canned wine business is massive. Not like loads and loads of cases, but millions and millions and millions of dollars in sales in canned wine. And there's a reason for it. The cans can be recycled, every single one of them, so they're environmentally friendly. That environmental friendliness extends to the carbon footprint. On a can, it's smaller than other forms of wine packaging. It's in a nice, handy single serve, so if you're heading out for a picnic or going out for an alfresco lunch, they work really nicely. They can be chilled very quickly, so you pop a can of Sauvignon Blanc or Chenin into the fridge, and you only need 10-15 minutes until it's down to a more than drinkable temperature. And so it's a wine space that's got a lot going for it in terms of its packaging and its impact on the environment. But for most of us who drink wine, and if there's just that element of wine snobbishness to your DNA, you're going, wine in a can kind of sits in that wine in a box sort of space. Now I'm gonna stick to my bottle. I'm just getting my head around screw cap. I'm certainly not going to try a can. But there is so much of it now, and in a time when we're buying up loads of cans of tuna and tomatoes and pilchards and chickpeas, then maybe wine in a can has got a space in that broader narrative. Quite a few of these are now on sale at Pick n Pay, so I picked up a few of them there. I also got some from the guys making them themselves, and I've got a range of 5 here. And they've got to do a couple of things for me. Yes, I know they're good for the environment. Yes, I know the carbon footprint's great and the packaging is fabulous. But what I want to know is the wine good in itself, and is drinking it out of a can any different really to drinking it out of a glass? Now, drinking it out of a Riedel glass that is specifically designed for the particular varietal is another space entirely. I just want to know generally, is there going to be a difference between the wine in the can, the wine in the glass? And is that flavour something that could lead me to making canned wine part of my weekly wine regimen? So this is the one I'm going to start with, and it comes from Black Elephant Vintners. Now, you'll have encountered Black Elephant on the show before. This is Kevin Swart, who was a businessman in Johannesburg, sold his business, moved down to Franschhoek. He partnered up with Raymond Ndlovu. He's one of Zimbabwe's great exports, up there with footballer Peter Ndlovu and Mazoe Orange Juice and Beast and Tarira and the other great Zimbabwean exports. And then Jacques Wenzel, who is a fine winemaker based down in the same part of the world. And they've sent up loads of Cup Classique to me in the past. In fact, I've got some of their newer releases and will be tasting those in the next few weeks. Some outstanding, outstanding South African bubbles. They do it just right, and their production is growing to meet the army of fans looking for their wine. But this is the first time that I saw their wine in a can. Their marketing speaks to exactly what I've spoken about, the environment, the canning, the ability to have something that's in a small single serve. But what does it taste like? This is the Sauvignon Blanc. And I'm going to do 2 things with these. Taste them out the can and then pour some in the glass and see how they work. Because all of these guys say, yep, it is something that you can have very simply out of the can. It does feel a little odd drinking wine out of a can, sort of one step up from bottle in a brown paper bag sitting on a park bench at 11 in the morning. But if I drink beer out of a can, which I do, then why not drink wine out of a can? It's really cool packaging. I love the simplicity of it. So Now, this is their Sauvignon Blanc. They've got the vintage. It's a 29, so it hasn't been can aged too much. See what it tastes like. Honest opinion, it's not the most earth-shattering Sauvignon Blanc I've ever had, but it's by no means the worst one I've had. And I think it does the job quite nicely. I'm going to try some in the glass as well, just to see what I've been drinking. But in terms of drinking it out of the can, quite enjoy it. I do see already a danger with the cans in that you can't see how much you're drinking. So a couple of big swigs and your can is suddenly finished. You might have to watch your consumption levels a little. Now you're getting more of a nose out of the bottle than you can really get out of the can, and that's not unexpected. It's nothing, it's slightly muted, nothing you wouldn't expect from a Sauvignon Blanc. Not a huge amount of difference between the two, really. So if you're feeling a little posher, you can pop your can straight into the glass, as you would with a beer if you're one of those people who likes to pour their can or bottle into a glass. But I think it's perfectly reasonable, not just culturally and socially, but for the enjoyment of the wine, to drink it out of the can as well. So there we go, Black Elephant Vintners. Might not replace my usual bottle of Sauvignon Blanc I might have in a summer's evening, but if I'm heading out and I need a couple of cans of wine, then that is a more than suitable answer to your wine conundrum. Right, so on to a second Sauvignon Blanc, and straight away you'll get that packaging, and you might recognise it because it's not dissimilar from their box wine. And this is where the Wren brand has caught the eye. They're some of the first guys to put some fairly premium wine into a box. And if you can store it properly and you're not looking to age it for a decade or so, then there's no reason not to try some premium wine in a box. And although it took some convincing to get people to try it out, it's one of your better box wine options if you're looking for something that gives you a little bit more volume for a slightly bigger group of people, but doesn't compromise on the quality. And often box wine is more of an entry-level kind of space. So a natural transition then for them to go from the innovation of the box to the innovation of the can. And the design has won a couple of awards as well. It is eye-catching. Now they say that they wanted to call this Tom Hanks because it's so consistently good, but then people wouldn't know if it was wine. I think Mr. Hanks's legal team might also have had something to say about that once he's finished recovering from the coronavirus in Australia. Now this is their Sauvignon Blanc, and it's marketed as being a really crisp, elegant Sauvignon Blanc. This is from the Slunghook Valley. If I'm not mistaken, this is Ati from Opstal who's making the wine for them, and this is the Sauvignon Blanc that he's produced. Cheers. This one's a little softer, slightly more tropical. Still a crispness to it, both of them fairly fresh. And there's certainly no taste of can. That's something you might have been worried about. And initially I thought, well, I wonder if the wine's going to taste a bit tinny. But then I thought, well, yeah, it doesn't really happen if I drink a Coca-Cola or a can of Pura Soda, or I open up a can of Fitch and Leeds to add to a gin. So it shouldn't really taste of can or of tin. It should just taste of the grapes, and if wood has been used, then a bit of wood. No wood in this Sauvignon Blanc, but some lovely grapes. That Slunghook Valley is making some of the, not just best value, but generally best wine in South Africa. Guys like Ati are superb winemakers. Opstal is delivering some superb wine. And they've directed it some of the way of Wren. I'm going to try in the glass as well, just for comparative analysis. Not a dissimilar space really to that Black Elephant. It might not displace the usual higher-end Sauvignon Blanc you might have with dinner, but if I'm off for a hike and I foresee an afternoon catching my breath with a gorgeous view somewhere and it's nice and warm, then again this is an excellent idea because it's still very pleasant wine. Both of those two, yes, they're cans, Yes, it's slightly unorthodox packaging in terms of what we know packaging of wine to be, but it produces some really nice wine, and that's all we really want, I suppose. Now, I'm not the only one to have been following the explosion of canned wine with interest, and these are just a few examples. There's plenty. I see the Maras brand from Swartland has brought some out as well, amongst several others. But this CanCan has got quite a bit of attention for a couple of reasons. One is the perceived quality. I haven't tried it yet, but Christian Eads, who was finally persuaded to take off his wine snob robes and indulge in some wine in a can, gave this 92 out of 100 points. That's a very, very good rating. That's 4.5-star quality if you're looking at the Platter scale. And the CanCan Chenin Blanc has, as a result, got a fair bit of interest. But it's not just the reception, it's also the packaging and the name. Packaging I really like. It's got an old school feel to it. And if you look closely, you'll see the hint of a dancer. And that is why CanCan is such a clever name, because yes, it is a can, well spotted, but it pays tribute, cleverly, to the CanCan dancers of the Pigalle area, the French tradition in Paris. And this particular one, the La Goulet, I think that's the right way to pronounce it. Je m'excuse si ce n'est pas correct. Their Chenin Blanc here pays tribute to La Goulet. She was a dancer who was apparently famous for wandering off stage, going through the audience, picking up drinks and just having a swig to see if she liked them, which I suspect she probably did. So this pays tribute to her, and it's a nice little backstory and gives an added dimension to the CanCan name. I've also got a rosé called Satine, who was also a famous CanCan dancer. So I've gone with La Goulet. I'm quite looking forward to this. Sure, if Christian Eads can be talked into drinking wine out of a can. Now, even with Christian's endorsement, that is a very pleasant surprise. Tropical, rich, that bountiful Chenin Blanc mouthful that is getting us such great response globally to our Chenin at the moment. Chilled perfectly, so it's not too cold, but cool enough to be refreshing. A really nice, smooth, tropical, I was going to say glass, but can of wine. I'll try that in the glass as well. So this is Francois Hasbrook, who's made plenty of great wine in his time. Directing some of it the way of cans. So I've got to say, not just because it still feels slightly awkward drinking wine out of a can, but simply to do justice to the wine, especially one like this, which is clearly a very good Chenin Blanc. I prefer it out of the glass because it's just giving me a bigger mouthfeel. I can swirl it around a bit. I feel I can engage with the wine a little more, if that doesn't sound overly pretentious, even by wine standards. It's still perfectly good out of the can, and I'll drink it that way happily. But if I were to open this and I had a glass handy, I'd probably use the glass just to open it all up a little more. Yeah, that is really nice. I think these cans might just work. And then one last can, and this is probably the biggest challenge, because red wine, you like to keep a bit longer, you like to bottle age it, you like to give it a chance to develop and express itself. Can you do that in a can? Now, I haven't seen too much research on can aging and the process therein. I'm sure there's some scientific response that could be given. So this is from Uncanny. I tasted this last year. They've got Chenin, which I enjoyed. I tried it towards the end of last year. These are guys from Pietermaritzburg. Pietermaritzburg was a Christmas home for me for many years. The brothers Jury, who've gone off to be superstar international businessmen traversing the globe, introduced me to Pietermaritzburg. And I often make a little bit of light fun about Pietermaritzburg in terms of the shows I do and the work I do on stage. But it's a really cool place, and I've got some very fond memories of it. Some of those memories are a little blurred from youthful nights out, But we didn't have a lot of wine in Pietermaritzburg. They specialize in drinks like cane and cream soda. That's kind of their area of expertise. This isn't wine from Maritzburg itself, of course. It's not a wine making or wine growing area, but it's guys who have gone into the business world and decided that from their business experience, they want to try and make some wine. So they've got wine from the Cape. So the Chenin comes from the Swartland. This Merlot is out of Stellenbosch. And amongst the claims to fame that Uncanny has in the Canned Wine Hall of South African Fame, this was the first certified canned wine in South Africa. It's vegan friendly. They don't add any sulfur, which is also something that might have crossed your mind. Are they preserving the wine? You know that when you open a can of most soft drinks, there are loads of preservatives in there, in most of them, not all, but most of them. So are they doing something similar here? Well, there's no sulfur in here. So you're looking at something that is a healthy package. Ta-da! Drinking red wine out of a can seems almost a little hedonistic, doesn't it? Now this one doesn't sit quite as comfortably on the palate as the whites, but being red possibly just needs a little bit more time once you've opened it. Or maybe it's a better one to decant into a glass if you have one. It's still got a distinctive Merlot feel to it. It's relatively soft, and it's got the mulberry-ish, red fruitish feel that so much Merlot does. What I will do is just decant this one and see if that changes things a little. So very difficult to kind of get a nose on that. Unless you're Pinocchio, you're going to battle a bit. Oh, Cyrano de Bergerac, for those of you who know your French literature. And already that's just slightly gentler, opens it up just a touch. And again, not too bad. I think the whites probably take it for me, but there's definitely potential in the red. And I think in the context of a cold night, sitting around a fire with a few mates, I think this could work really, really well for you. I suspect wine in a can is still something of a work in progress, but the progress has been pretty good in a relatively short space of time. South African speaking, obviously there's international expertise, which helps things and has given a broader platform of knowledge for South African winemakers and producers to develop from. What we've got so far really is a pretty good selection, and I think wine in a can does definitely have some potential. Before we wrap up though, there's one last one I thought I would try, and this is not dissimilar in that it is wine packaged in a way we don't normally find it, and this is SingleServe glass of wine. This comes out of Robertson. So I know the guys making this. They took me out to Aurum, the new restaurant in Sandton. We had some lunch and we had quite a bit of interest from the waiters and sommeliers as to what these glasses were. Now the big thing with this is can versus plastic, and in a world where plastic is increasingly frowned upon, it's probably the biggest hurdle that SingleServe has to overcome, although they are looking at a new model at a biodegradable plastic glass, which won't be real plastic. I think it comes out of sugarcane. But again, as with the others, it's the wine that I'm particularly interested in and how it has survived. So, ta-da. Now, I've seen the video. There's an extraordinary machine that packages all of this. A little burst of sulfur in to preserve the wine, and then on goes the label. So some of those ones are sulfur free. This one does have sulfites to it. Wine out of Robertson. I know I think it's the De Wets who are making this particular wine. They do make some good wine. It's an interesting nose. There's almost a kind of a briny savouriness to it, which I suspect you won't really get when the actual wine is there, and you're also going to give this a moment or two to open up. So I don't have a glass, because if you're then pouring this into another glass, you're kind of defeating the purpose of producing this in the first place. Now, if the nose is slightly underwhelming, then the wine offsets that. It's almost got a comfort feel to it. And it's not 17-star platter wine, but much like with the can of Merlot from Uncanny, I can see myself around a fire late at night, the braai's been done, you're swapping outrageous stories, and you're enjoying an evening before retiring to your tent or your sleeping bag for the evening. It's been served in a lot of stadia around South Africa because, again, it is a really simple way of delivering wine. The advantage it probably has over drinking straight from the cans, getting a bit of air in, got a little bit more engagement with the wine. I think that helps slightly. But the big challenge for single serve wine is how do you make sure you get it to be a more environmentally friendly product, which is how it's then going to compete a little more with the cans. Also, in terms of keeping it, like the cans, I think all of these guys guarantee you 12 months, but speaking to the guys who make single serve, they've opened single serve glasses that they've had in storage for 4 years, and they've been absolutely fine. So it does have a little bit of time on its side. So across the board, overall view of Dan Really Likes Wine, first choice for me will still be the bottles as they stand, but these are really good alternatives, particularly when you need the right situation around the pool and you're trying to avoid glasses. You've got kids everywhere and you don't want broken glass when one inevitably shatters, and if it's an expensive wine glass, costs you a small fortune. The plastic glass does the same job for you. With the cans, I think we're becoming increasingly environmentally friendly, and if you're stocking up in the times of Corona, then you've got another good option there to add to your cellar with something that allows you to go and buy some canned goods, but not the ones that you might initially have been thinking of. And with the single serve wine, you've got wine that, importantly, is wine that really is fairly good to drink. You're not going to expect wine that's going to win all manner of awards for the quality of it, certainly not just yet, possibly in the future. I'm not sure where this space is going, but where we are now is a pretty good start and gives you a really good alternative in terms of how we traditionally consume wine. It's on shelves, a lot of it's in that 30 to 40 rand, either a glass or a can. These first three are on the shelves of Pick n Pay at the moment. So grab a can, see what you think, and next time you need a space where a can of wine is the better and more practical option over a bottle of wine, even a screw cap, then here are some really good ways to start. Good luck with the canned wine industry. I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And as we hunker down, as I do, in my isolation chamber, when I run out of bottles, I've got a few cans to go to instead.